Hey everyone, welcome to Yorick Podcast. Today I have the great Megan Carnes on the show. She's a fantastic composer. She actually composed Ryan O'Leary's short film, The Lost Weekend, which we do talk about. We also talk about some of her other projects, such as Desmondo Ray, and also her video game composing as well too. So you don't want to miss this episode. Also gives out some great advice too, and also we, like most podcasts do, go off and talk about other things like soap making and how she moved from Chicago over to LA and her experience in LA and things she learned. And yeah, this is a great podcast. You're gonna want to listen to it. This is a podcast with Megan Carnes. But first, a quick little ad. So today I have with me Megan Carnes. Did I say that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, good. I was nervous about that because I'm bad at pronouncing last names and names in general. So
No, you're good. How do you pronounce your first name, by the way, while we're on the subject?
it's Rick, but you're Rick. But I just
Okay.
I could just go by Rick. So
Word. Okay, cool.
yeah. But yeah, thanks for coming on the podcast. I am really happy that you're here, and honestly a little bit nervous too.
Oh, you don't have to be nervous.
Yeah. And I know we've only really met once, and then at the Ryan screening.
Yeah, and we didn't really talk because I had pneumonia, so I just
Exactly.
pieced afterwards. Yeah.
Um, I really wanted to talk to you about music. Music is something that I absolutely love, and obviously you love it because
Mhm.
that's your career.
Yes, true.
And so kind of my first question is like, what pursued you to this career of composing music for film, not just film but video games too?
Yeah, so I was always into music growing up, loved it as a little kid and stuff. And then when I was like 8, I think, I started playing violin in my school's orchestra and stuck with that for a long time. And then I think it was middle school, I started like teaching myself a little piano as well and playing my own tunes or composing my own tunes. And then in high school, we played like a Star Wars medley in orchestra. And for some reason, it had never really occurred to me, like, oh, this is a job people do, like writing music for movies. And that was kind of when like the light bulb hit because, I also liked movies a lot and had been composing my own music for a couple of years. So I was like, oh, there's a way to, actually do this and make a living doing this. So yeah, that's kind of what started me on the path, I guess.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I was actually a band geek myself. I played
Oh, nice.
I played trumpet.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
But I didn't really discover it like you did. See, when I thought, because yeah, I was big into music and movies, but I never thought about actually like making it a career. Like mine was like, oh, directing and writing.
Mhm. Yeah, I think, in middle school, I actually thought, like, maybe I wanted to be a screenwriter, but I'm, more into writing the music than the words, so it made more sense for me to be a composer.
And then so obviously, I think even I saw this on Twitter because I follow you on Twitter.
Mhm.
You went to I know you kind of put something actually there on Twitter between like going to college and not going to college to write music as a career.
Yeah, so right now on Twitter, there's a lot of like discourse going around in the game industry of whether you should go to college for game related stuff.
Mm.
So that's kind of why I made that tweet. But yeah, so I went to college, and at first I was majoring in other stuff. Like I had a second major in music, but that was kind of my like for fun major because I was like, well, pursuing like a career in music isn't really practical. Like that would be cool, but you know,
Mm.
not realistic or whatever. um, but then all the other majors I tried out, I just didn't like, and composing for film and other things is really the only thing that I wanted to do. So I ended up majoring in music and minoring in film, and it was a really good experience. I liked it a lot. But yeah, as I said in my tweet, I learned a lot. My professors were awesome. Met awesome people like other students and stuff. But college is also expensive.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes. But yeah, then after that, kind of started, just composing for random films, like people I met uh, through the film program at school and stuff, and eventually started doing paid work, and it's been kind of building from there. And I've been doing it for about 10 years now, or maybe a little under 10 years, maybe more like 9. But yes.
Wow, that's awesome. And yeah,
Thank you.
I know you're not from LA though. That's the thing. I kind of realized that too, that you're not from LA. You're actually, so where did you go to college to?
Yeah, so I'm from the Chicago area, and I went to school at Loyola, which is a college in Chicago. It had a very, very tiny music department, but that meant I got to know all the professors on like a very personal level, which was pretty cool. Got a lot of like
Oh, that's
one-on-one
awesome.
guidance and stuff. Yeah, so that was pretty cool. But yeah, I'm from Chicago originally. Stayed in Chicago for a couple years after college, then moved to Austin because I knew a few people in the film scene there, and that was pretty cool. And then I moved to LA to kind of try to pursue like bigger projects, basically, and try out assisting also for like bigger composers.
So the few things, because I did try to find as much music uh, from you and that I could, and projects as well. Like I know Ryan was the one that actually told me about Desmondo Ray, which is something that
Hmm.
you compose, which is really good.
Thank you.
Both the
Yeah.
music and the film, and the animation and the film of it itself.
Yeah, I love that series. And yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's one of my favorite things I've worked on. It's just like real, like absurd and weird, but also like very heartfelt and beautiful. So yeah, that one was a lot of fun. But that director, I actually met through Hit Record, which is like this kind of crowdfunding, like collaborative
Is that
type,
the
or not
JGL?
crowdsourcing. Yes, it
Yeah.
is. And I don't do it anymore. I now think it's exploitative, but in my early 20s, I kind of didn't know better. And I did end up meeting a lot of cool people through there who I then worked with on projects outside of the site. So it was cool in that way.
Oh, that's funny. Like I've thought about putting stuff there too, but like when I read like the fine print, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, so it's essentially like crowdsourcing, and it's underpaid, and you only get paid if your thing gets used in the first place. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of sketchy.
I mean, the idea is there, but I think the execution could have been a little bit better, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think definitely their hearts are in the right place. They want to make this cool, like, collaboration
Yeah.
platform. Um, but yeah, it ends up being a little exploitative, I think. Not on purpose, but yeah.
Right. Yeah. So one of like the major questions I have, because I'm really curious about this, is like when you're working on a project and like let's say The Lost Weekend,
Mhm.
when you watch the film, how do you like transpose or like compare or put the music from your head, or as you're watching it, like do you create the music like that just like in your head and just start like
So it kind of depends, but a lot of the time the director will have an idea kind of the type of music, like the genre of music they want, or instrumentation, or at least a mood. So I have a lot to go off of. But generally, I will bring up uh, the film in Cubase, which is the digital audio workstation I use. So kind of watch it in there, and then play, whatever instruments along to it, and just kind of get a base. And a lot of times, what I'll do also before actually working on the music is kind of put little markers for like the bigger moments in the scene that I want to highlight, and kind of figure out tempo wise how I can hit those moments at a time that makes sense musically, basically,
Mhm.
if that makes sense. But yeah, a lot of times I think a lot of composers start off with just piano, and figure out their melodies and stuff first, but I actually tend to do the opposite where I will figure out like the instrumentation that fits the scene, I think, like kind of figure out my palette, I guess, that I'll be
Mm.
painting with, and then figure out the melodies and chords and such later. And obviously, like the instrumentation can change. I'll often like add more instruments or end up changing things. But yeah.
'Cause yeah, it's just so I was always just been so curious about how it works like that, and because like
Mhm.
it's, trying to set the right mood and everything for each scene, and
Yeah.
how much creative freedom do you get when working with directors or in video games? Like,
It really, really varies. Some people have very specific visions for what they want, and then others, I've had people just literally be like, "Do what you want. I trust you." Ryan did that for one of the scenes in The Lost Weekend. He was like, "Yeah, I know you know what to do with this one." um, so that was cool. But yeah, it really depends. And generally, people I've worked with before too kind of trust me more and kind of let me do my own thing. And then there are people who have very specific visions in mind, which is fine too, because sometimes, I mean, it depends. They're both nice in a way. Like having creative freedom is great, but sometimes not having direction is like a little daunting. But then the other way with very specific directions, like then you get no creative freedom, but it's like you know exactly what to do, you know?
mhm. So it's kind of just like a fine line between how much freedom you got, or how the collaborative process, I guess, between the
Yeah.
director and yourself.
Yeah, I would say so. And I do think being too specific maybe is more of a new director thing who haven't really worked with composers much and don't know how to kind of like give up a little of control. You know, like don't know how to trust their collaborators 100% yet, which I can totally understand. But yeah.
With video games, is there like a mass difference when composing for video games compared to composing for a movie or for a film?
Yeah, kind of. So the basic kind of foundation is the same. Like you're just making music to fit a certain mood or fit certain events or something. But the execution is very, very different because with film, everything timing is always going to be the same, right?
Mm.
No matter how many times you watch the film, like things are always going to happen at the same time. So you're scoring to picture, you're like making the music respond to things that are happening on screen. With games, you don't know what's going to be happening at any specific time. So it's more either just making like background loops that don't have any specific points they're hitting on really, or I do a lot of like interactivity where the music will change if a certain thing happens in the game, that kind of thing. But yeah, so they're like very similar but also very different.
Like today's video games are just like so cinematic now that it's pretty crazy. The music that
Yeah.
they have. Like I well, this is kind of an older game, but I just started playing first Halo, and like the
Mhm.
music is insane in that. And
Yeah, it's really good.
even like with The Last of Us 2, like that was or The Last of Us, like that the music
Mhm.
was just insanely good. Yeah,
Mhm.
I feel like the video games and films are starting to like almost merge a bit as far as with the
Yeah, I think so too. Even like the storytelling in a lot of video games has become like very cinematic, I feel like.
it's amazing what they're doing now.
Yeah.
What are some of the your favorite projects? If I mean, I don't know if you want to say what's like specifically like your favorite projects, or one of the your like favorite things you've composed for.
Yeah. I really like
I mean,
Desmondo
it's hard
Ray.
for me to pick because like I've for the ones that I have listened and even checked on your Bandcamp, like it's really good. Everything
Oh, thank
I
you.
really like it.
I appreciate. Yeah, it's hard to pick a favorite project just because, you know, they're all so different and I have things I love about all of them. But yeah, Desmondo Ray was honestly like really fun. That was a while ago now, but it
Mhm.
just so perfectly suits my style. I think of like the combination of like weird but also magical and heartfelt. That was really fun to do. Um, and I was like, still a fairly new composer at the time. So I'm like, looking back, I'm pretty proud of what I was able to do with like my limited resources and knowledge.
Yeah.
I also, in 2020, I composed music for a game called Helheim Hassle, which was really fun. It's like comedic game, and I only did like a couple tracks for it, but basically, they were for these like game levels that were parodying other games. So I got to like do something in the style of Super Meat Boy, and something else in the style of Grease, and yeah, something else in the style of Minecraft, and yeah, that was really fun because it was like very funny to kind of delve into these other styles.
I know you do have a current project going on with the video game. I saw.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So I am actually making this is the second game that I will have made. 'Cause, yeah, I got into making my own games because I was coming from a film background and decided a couple years ago I also wanted to start composing for video games. Just because I really like both films and video games. And I was like, that would be cool to do some of both?
yeah.
So, but the problem is nobody wanted to hire me to write for their video games because I didn't have any game composing experience. But I also was past the point of wanting to work for free because I'd been doing films for a while, and it felt weird to go back to
Yeah.
doing things for no money after getting paid for a while?
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, well, I will make my own little interactive thing just to show that I can like do interactive music. But then it turned into a full game, and I really liked making it. So now I'm making this second game called Divinuet, which essentially it generates music for you based on tarot readings, and then I'm also using like silent film footage, like public domain stuff from like the 1920s and such. So it'll also
Awesome.
generate like a little music video for you to go with the music that it generates.
So you just pick a card and it's gonna generate the music and
Yeah, so it's like a 3 card reading. So basically the game's in 2 stages. So the first stage, you'll see each of your cards individually, and then each card has like a little theme that plays like 45 seconds long or so. So I'm writing individual themes for each of the 78 tarot cards, which is a lot of music as it
wow.
turns out.
Oh my gosh.
And then, yeah, it goes into the second stage then where it kind of does like generative music based on your combination of cards. And it's this whole like complicated system that's really hard to explain. But yeah, that's also when it like generates the little like silent movie music video for you.
So are you creating this all on your own as far like the game itself and everything or
I have some help. So I can use like Unity, which is an engine that you make or that you use to make games basically, but I only know like basic programming, so I have hired a friend of mine to like his name's Saul. He is helping me with some of the more like complicated programming things. So he made like a lot of the actual like bulk of the game, like making the cards actually appear on screen and all that stuff, at the right time, and creating a save system so you can go back and look at old readings. Like, I don't know how to do any of that. So he took care of that. But a lot of the basic stuff I'm taking care of. I also hired a sound designer because I can do sound design kind of, but I'm not like a pro at it. And I also don't particularly like doing it. So I hired my friend M. Gore to do some sound design. There isn't that much needed in the game since it's such a musical game, but they really helped me with the couple things that I did need sound design for. And then, like, as far as art goes, like, the tarot deck I'm using is public domain, so that's nice. And then, public domain footage, so it's good. I haven't really had to hire an artist, even though I don't have many visual art skills myself, but I'm just kind of, public or piecing together a bunch of public domain stuff for the
Yeah.
visual part, and it's working fine so far. So
I didn't know there were public domain tarot cards.
yeah, it's something I'd never had to think about before. Just not something that comes up in your daily life much. But I was like, okay, like what can I use for this art wise? Because I would love to be able to pay an artist to create 78 tarot cards for me for this game, but I don't have the money to pay someone to do that. And obviously, I'm not going to like try to get someone to do it for free because I'm opposed to that morally. So, yeah, so I was looking into it, and kind of the most famous tarot deck called the Rider Waite deck just came into the public domain this year, and I was like, "Oh, well, there you go."
Perfect
Perfect.
timing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great.
And
Yeah.
is this already out now? Because I saw you have an Indiegogo here too.
Yeah, it's not out yet. There's a little prototype that's available to play, but that's, like, a year old at this point, but, yeah, I'm still working on it. Probably 2022 it'll come out, I think. I'd originally said October of this year, but that's not gonna happen. Unfortunately, I have a lot of music left to write still.
So you have other future current projects coming up too.
Not game projects at the moment. I just finished up doing a podcast theme, like composing a podcast theme, which was pretty fun. Um, I did it with my husband. We collaborated on it because they wanted something kind of in like the style of AC/DC, which is not my usual style, and I don't play guitar or anything. So I was like, "Hey, husband, help me with this. You're in a punk band." And so we collaborated on it, which was very fun, and it's kind of fun to go outside of, your usual style sometimes. Other than that, yeah, I don't know. Kind of looking for the next composing project, but I just finished that one literally like 2 days ago. So
So you kind of lean more towards like the classical type of instruments.
yeah, generally, yeah, that's kind of what I go for. I sometimes like to throw in some synths and stuff too. And generally, rather than like the big epic orchestral, I tend to go for like kind of smaller arrangements, like more minimalistic stuff, I guess.
Yeah, that's the kind of music, yeah, the kind of scores that I like are more like the smaller minimalist. Like I was actually just watching last night, About Time,
I
and
haven't seen that one.
yeah, the music in that are it's just it's so good, just like basic or even something like Beginners.
Yeah.
I really like the suite to that movie.
Yeah, I'm really into like I like Philip Glass a lot and like Thomas Newman and Nicholas Britell and stuff, and they all kind of do that kind of more minimalist type score, which I really like. I think you can say a lot emotionally with smaller groups of instruments than people might think.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like when you decided to make this like your career, like who was the inspiration to it all?
Yeah, I think Philip Glass and Thomas Newman were big ones. I don't think at the time Nicholas Britell was like as big, but yeah, like Philip Glass did the score for like The Hours and like The Illusionist and some of the music for like The Truman Show. And then Thomas Newman has done a lot. He did like American Beauty
Yeah.
and stuff. And yeah, their music work was kind of what I was like really like, okay, I want to do something like this. So yeah, I would say probably those two were my main influences going in, I think.
Well, what I've been throwing this podcast out is also for like anyone who's listening who wants to get into any careers, which is in this field, such as film and acting. In my past two interviews with composing music, what advice or kind of like material even would you recommend someone to check out or even to get creative and listen to making music, to composing music,
Yeah, for sure. Um,
or even films you might even recommend to.
what is that film that came out? There's a film like a year or two ago that came out that was like a documentary about film composers that I think is pretty good for people kind of just interested in the subject, want to learn more about it. What is it called? Oh, it's called Score. All
Oh,
right. Yeah, that one's pretty good. Generally, I think just like this is more for games, but like game audio Twitter is very active. Like just finding out in online spaces, people are generally pretty open. People who are already established in their careers and willing to give advice. I'm trying to think what like books and stuff I used when I was first starting, and I don't think I did really like find any, but this was also 10 years ago. But most of what I learned was from like mentorships, internships, that kind of thing. I mean, there are a lot of like textbooks and stuff out there just on composition in general that I think are good that'll teach you about like music theory and that kind of thing. I don't remember what specific ones I used in college, but yeah, like I feel like a library might have, especially like a college library might have some kind of like beginner composition books that could be good, that kind of thing.
so I know with like film editing and stuff, there's like free software for like hit film, and even with like writing. Like, is there like a free software for composing as well too, or is that just because like the only things I really know are like Pro Tools and whatever GarageBand.
Yeah. So if you want to use like actual notation for composing, like this wouldn't be like a DAW, so you wouldn't be able to import like video into it or anything. But if you want to just try, composing notes basically using like sheet music type format, there's one called Musescore, which is like a notation program that's free. And that's actually what I use when I have to do notation. As far as DAWs go, I haven't used it, but there's one out there called Reaper that's supposed to be pretty good. And basically, it's free until you can pay for it, and then once you pay for it, it's like $60. Um, so I don't. Most of the people I know who have used it loved it, but I have never used it myself. But I would say check that out. And also a lot of other music software. I don't remember which ones specifically, but a lot of them will offer like free trials that you can check out.
Yeah, definitely got to take advantage of the free trials.
Yeah. And and honestly, like if you have a Mac, GarageBand is like pretty good. Like you can do kind of a lot with
Really?
it. Yeah. Yeah, people would be surprised, but I know like the Final Fantasy composer. Um I think he, like, used GarageBand. He might even still use it, but, like, yeah.
Oh wow, I didn't know it was really that powerful.
Yeah.
That's news for me.
Yeah, it's pretty useful, and then so if you have a Mac, I would recommend playing around in GarageBand, and then, if you feel like it's kinda limiting what you wanna do, consider upgrading to something more powerful, like, I use Cubase, but before Cubase, I used Logic, which is kind of,
Oh, Logic.
Apple's version.
Yeah, that's the other
Yeah,
one.
that's Apple's DAW, and I'm on PC now, but when I was on Mac, I really liked Logic because since it's made by Apple, it was, very similar to GarageBand, so it was a really easy, like, learning curve.
Like I said, I'm kind of really impressed with everything that you've done, and
Thank you.
uh, as I mean, I see here you're making soaps now too.
I do make sound. Yeah, it's kind of nice to have a hobby that I have like no plans of monetizing at all.
Oh,
Like that's just a hobby.
yeah. I've tried making soap in the past. It was a long time
Mhm.
ago though. I don't even remember. Like, and plus
Oh,
I was making it with my girlfriend at the time too. So
mhm.
it's like it like she loved to make soaps as well. And when I saw yours, I was like, oh my god, that's really cool. It reminded me about when I tried to make a soap that
Look.
didn't look anything like a bar.
That's pretty funny. Yeah, so I don't do like full on soap making. Like basically to actually make soap from scratch, you have to like use lye and let it sit for weeks and all this stuff. And I was like, that sounds dangerous. I am clumsy. Like me and lye, like that seems bad. But you can do these things called melt and pour, which is basically you get these bases, which are basically like giant, unscented, uncolored bars of soap, and you melt them, and then you can add whatever dyes or fragrances or what additives, whatever you want to them, and then you just let them harden again, and then you have your soap. And it's great, and it's super easy.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I
Jeez.
like it.
Yeah, maybe I give it another go. Yeah,
Yeah,
I might.
yeah. I would recommend it. It's very relaxing, and it's a good like crafting hobby to have because you actually need soap. Like it's something you'll actually use, and it'll disappear as you use it. So if you keep making more, it's not like you're just like filling up your apartment with just a ton of like your work or whatever that you don't have room for.
Yeah. I actually talked to Ryan to see if he had anything that he wanted me to ask
Oh.
you. But he did bring up something that I was actually going to bring up too, and it's got buried in my notes, and which is, I know you. I mean, you said you're moving to Michigan now
I'm moving back to Chicago,
or
actually.
Chicago. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so you moved out here to LA. So I know you're so now that you're moving back, like, because I know you also kind of posted on Twitter that you were going to go off on like people telling you, oh, you got to move out to LA. I don't know if you want to say it here or not, but like,
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be happy to talk about that.
because like I know Ryan moved out here as well too for a while, and then he ended up
Yeah,
moving
and then
back.
he moved
So
back. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. He and I actually like talked about that a lot since we were kind of in the same boat of like moving out here and being like, I don't know, don't know about this LA place.
yeah, I lived here my whole life. I don't get it either.
Yeah, I'm sure it's different if you were like raised here, but yeah. So basically, a lot of composers how they end up making it is by working as an assistant for like a bigger composer.
Mhm.
And I felt like I really wanted to try that out. And really, LA is kind of the only place you can do that because most of the bigger composers are here. And I felt like, okay, I want to try this out because if I don't try it, like I'll always wonder, like, could I have done that and gotten big?
Yeah.
So I did try it, and thankfully, the composers I worked for were very cool, but I still didn't really enjoy assisting. And then at the same time, I was still like getting jobs working on a bunch of indie films and games and stuff. And almost all of them were still remote anyway, even though I moved to LA to be close to this scene. So, like, I did the Lost Weekend for Ryan when we were both living here, or maybe I started it and then he moved back or something,
That might
but
have
yeah,
happened. Yeah.
yeah, I think that was it. I
Yeah.
think but yeah, I remember we had like a beer where we talked about it, when we were both living here. And that was like my one in-person meeting I've ever had about a job.
Oh
Like
wow.
even the one I worked on one other film that was LA based while I was living here, and we just never met up in person. Like we did everything online via email.
Wow,
And
that's
then
crazy.
yeah, and then at the same time, like the game I worked on, Helheim Hassel, they're based in like Norway. And then I was working on stuff from Chicago and Pennsylvania and just all over the place. And I was just kind of like, why am I here? you know?
Yeah.
LA is really cool in a lot of ways. I like being so close to so many different like outdoorsy places. Like you got the beach, you got the mountains, you got forests, you got deserts. Like I think that's really cool. And it's really hard to find that in other places. But the main thing is that it's just so expensive here. And my husband and I live in a one-bedroom apartment, and we both work from home. So my desk setup is in the bedroom, and his is in the living room. And especially with the pandemic, it just feels very like claustrophobic being in this tiny space just all the
Yeah.
time. And plus, I'm from Chicago and I miss it. I love that city. And, being close to family and a lot of my friends and stuff, I really miss that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's cool. We can afford like a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment there, so I can have an actual studio that's not like 2 feet from my bed.
Yeah. 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 It's
Yeah.
insane when, I was looking at houses too because I'm trying to get the hell out of LA as well.
Oh yeah,
Because it's so damn expensive. But
it
yeah, it's
is.
insane what the prices are from LA, what you can get in a totally different state.
Yeah,
And
definitely. It's pretty wild. But yeah, I'm excited to move. And Chicago, it's got its own stuff going on. Like it's a big city, so it's still got like a film scene and a game scene and stuff. So excited to get involved in that again.
that's cool. Yeah, I've never been there. I
It's
actually do
really
have
cool.
family there now that I think about it. Just never
Oh
seen them.
really?
Yeah, I never seen them.
Oh, oh wow.
I know I met
Yeah.
them once, but not even in Chicago. It was in Mexico.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, Chicago's really cool. You should go sometime. I
Yeah.
like it a lot. Most people I know who have visited there have liked it. So
Yeah, there's a lot of Chicago punk bands a few Chicago punk bands that I like
yeah,
that
there
are from
are.
there, and that's really was one of the main motivations when I wanted to go visit over there too.
Yeah, there are a lot of good punk bands from there. It's got a good music scene. I like it. Yeah.
Well, it was wonderful having you on here. I don't know if there's anything else you might want to talk about or plug or anything you want to. That's I know. Well, I mean, we did kind of talk about your Indiegogo. That's right now. It's still there. It's still up, right? It's still working.
Yeah, so Indiegogo has this cool feature that where if you get fully funded, you can do this thing called in demand, which is where people can keep contributing to your campaign even after it's over, which is cool. Um,
Oh, that's
so
great.
so yeah, even though the campaign ended like a year ago, I'm still getting occasional people, donating, which is very cool. Um, so yeah, I'm kind of like treating it as a pre-order. But yeah, that's if you just go to divinuet.com, it like redirects to the Indiegogo site, which also just has more info about the game and stuff.
Yeah, I'll definitely put the links in the show notes.
Okay,
So yeah, I'll put the links in the show notes for everyone to find
cool.
your
And
music and anything
yeah,
else. Yeah.
I'm a Megan composer on Twitter. I post a lot of stuff there.
You definitely people need to definitely follow you. I like your posts. You're pretty
Oh,
funny
thank
on
you.
Twitter.
Thank you. Yeah, I think people see my Twitter and expect me to be like really like loud and funny in real life. And in real life, I mean, I think I'm funny still, but I'm like pretty quiet at first. So I think people are like surprised at the difference between my Twitter personality and my actual personality.
Yeah, I kind of fall in that category as well too.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
because like I'm a complete introvert, shy introvert, and
Oh, yeah, me too.
so like I said, it's even doing the podcast. Like before we did this, like I'm trying to like get myself like it's fine, everything's gonna be okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I feel that. And I feel like in the pandemic, at least, like video calls and voice calls used to not like drain me the same way that in-person interactions did. But I
Mhm.
think now that they're all I do, they now do
It's
drain me
starting
in
to
the
get
same
there
way.
now. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you noticed that too?
Yes.
Yeah,
um,
it's a lot.
yeah, it's new. Yeah, and then like I don't know. Once everything goes back, I don't know if it's gonna change. At least for myself, I don't know about you.
Mhm.
If you feel that way, or are you just still gonna be like, no, I'd rather stay indoors still.
Yeah, I don't know. I think at first I'll be excited to get out, but then I'm sure I'll go back to my hermit ways.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what I keep telling my friend Bryce or anyone else. Like, yeah, I think I really can't wait to go out to a club and like, or go to a punk show or something, and then like for 10 minutes I'll be like, okay, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh yeah, I don't like this. Okay.
Yeah,
Like, yeah. there was a reason I never did this before.
Exactly. You just start remembering everything, and you're yeah, fuck this.
Yeah, I do miss like meetups for uh like I used to co-organize like this game audio meetup for LA people. And that was fun because it was just a bunch of like audio nerds coming and hanging out, and we did it every month, and that was fun. Not co-organizer of that anymore since I'm leaving LA. So but
There's a
yeah,
new
and
place you can start it at now in Chicago.
yeah, exactly. I think that would be fun. And then yeah, stuff like GDC, like the big game conference. And I miss going to like film festivals and stuff for like stuff I've worked on. So I think once that stuff is back, I'll be very happy.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't even remember the last festival or place I went to.
I think the last festival I went to was actually the one we met at, which was over a year ago. So
Oh, I think that was Sherman Oaks, I think.
yeah, that was
Yeah.
Sherman Oaks Film
Yeah.
Fest. Yeah. And I had pneumonia, so I didn't even like fully enjoy it.
uh, yeah,
Y-
I think both me and Ryan were kind of surprised, like, wow, she made it out even with pneumonia.
yeah, I was already being medicated. I was on antibiotics, so I was like, I'm not contagious. I'll just go and then leave as soon as the film is over, which I did. I did not hang out afterwards, as I'm sure you remember. So I was
Yeah.
like, I'm done.
Yeah, I think the retro now that I remember, I think it was the retro gaming expo, I think in Pasadena. I think that might have been the last one I went to.
Oh, that sounds fun.
It was awesome. Yeah. They
Nice.
even had a retro arcade that was for free.
Oh, that's cool. I
Yeah.
was supposed to speak at GDC 2020 on this
Oh
like
wow.
panel. Yeah, on this like panel of composers talking about making their own games basically, but yeah, then GDC got canceled. So, womp womp.
Shit. Well,
Yeah.
hopefully you'll be back there once it's back.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. It would be cool if we could just like submit the same panel and be like, "Hey, you accepted this before." Like please let us do it.
Yeah. I'm always kind of curious if well, I think with GDC, yeah, it'll come back, but like with some of like the other conventions like E3 or even like I know like Comic-Con will be back,
Yeah.
but like with everything with E3, I feel like that might not come back.
Yeah, I kind of think the same thing. I kind of think E3 might be done. And yeah, I'm curious about a lot of the smaller conferences too, like whether those will come back. We'll see.
Yeah. I think with things where the thing with the way things are going, I think at least I hope most people will now throw their money towards all these smaller conventions rather than these big ones.
Yeah, I hope so too. Because like GDC is a lot of fun, but it's like very overpriced, and it's run by like a $1 billion company. So like, I don't know. I think it's better for people to go to like small local things,
Yeah.
support small local business, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've been trying to do throughout all this, like support the local businesses and
Yeah, me
fight
too.
fight the urge of not using Amazon.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I feel that for sure.
Well, Megan, this was a absolute pleasure to talk to you. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, this was fun. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and you're welcome back anytime to talk about whatever you want.
Cool. That
Uh,
sounds good.
and we'll definitely get you over on some shit we like as well too, because I know with that we've kind of put that on hold because of everything. Because we record that one in person, so it's kind of hard to do
Oh,
that
yeah.
now.
Yeah, for sure.
Uh,
Makes it a little difficult.
yeah. But yeah, thanks again, and yeah, I'll talk to you another time.
Well, sounds good.